welcome back to the Roundtable with MAMLEO. This is our second hour, and I am your co-host for today, Rhodes Pierre, and we have our Pastor Hobbs.
Yes, sir.
Hello and welcome to the show.
Yes.
And we'd like to thank our previous caller, Jamal, for calling in. And just remember, people, again, the number is 617-282-0685. And we're, I believe, the June 22nd, you said?
Yes, that's correct.
June 22nd, we're going to be having another concert here at the at the facilities.
Boston Praise Radio and TV Network.
Yes.
It's our next concert and talent search, and we had an awesome time last time. And they're always amazing, but it's an opportunity for fellowship and to meet a lot of independent and local artists, as well as to to sow resources so that we can continue to be on the air.
Okay, yes. And again, with the resources, we need monetary support. And again, if you guys shout out or let other people know and share the fact that we're here and we're here a part of the community, and we're, as he says, we're independent, and we're, again, kind of looking at different aspects of what's going on in our community, and taking a more in-depth look and a different perspective than what is normally taken from the mainstream media. We are an independent a media outlet, Boston Praise Radio. Again, www.bostonpraiseradio.tv. We've got Facebook, YouTube. We're on TikTok, Roku. So we're on many platforms. And again, we just need your support. And again, help in getting the word out that we're here and that we exist. And in that, in turn, will turn into more support and people being able to keep the show and the different programs that we have on the air. And again, we're not part of the mainstream media. We don't have big commercial budget or agenda, and we're just, again, trying to give people a different or unique perspective to different aspects of what's going on in the community. So it's not always the same narrative that people are being subjected to. And as we mentioned earlier in the first hour of the broadcast, you understand that media is a business, so they're not there to educate you or entertain you. They're there to make money. Well, actually, they do entertain you, and that's why they make their money. But again, they're not there like necessarily to give you all the information that you need in order to make the most informed decision. They just want to kind of give you the click and bait. They want you to watch so that way they can sell you. They have more commercials to be able to tell the commercial people that, hey, we've got all these eyes watching. So therefore we justify the price that we're charging you to air the commercial on that platform. But we're not like that here. But we depend on your support. And this hour we're kind of limbo in what we're going to talk about, because the information that we've gotten, I don't feel that it's strong enough or I don't have enough information for me to be able to actually carry a conversation on it right now. But again, it's still dealing with what's going on in the city. And unfortunately, I guess 2 people were fired from the administration due to some sort of behavior, but being looped into it is another member of the mayor's administration. And we're, again, just based on what we know, or what I know from Mr. Sagoon, I've known him on different platforms, and he's never seemed to be someone that has been Mr. Aduo. I don't know how to say his last name for sure, but I know Sagoon. Idowu. I've known him in a couple of different capacities, and he's always been a stand-up person.
Absolutely.
As dapper as you.
Oh, you're kind.
all the time.
You're kind.
But again, so I will leave it. We'll leave it alone right now. But again, the number is 617-282-0685, and we'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors, and that is the Money Store and Cora Holbrook. I don't have her number right now to tell you, but again, the Money Store for your mortgage needs, that call Cora Holbrooks and she'll help you out. They do seminars and they provide a lot of information to try to help people become home owners, as again, like to have a little skin in the game, build some equity, and have some intergenerational wealth. So And we also have Cruise Construction. So, you know, in case if Core can't find you a home, maybe Cruise can build you a home. You know, and so again, we'd like to give a shout out to those existing sponsors. We're always looking for new sponsors and more sponsors. You know, and just understand that we're here to provide some information or some insight to the community in regards to what's going on in the city or what's going on within different aspects of their, you know, police force. Again, these people are here to protect and serve us, and we want to hold them accountable to that, you know, so that way they're not just protecting and serving their interests or corporate interests. And so to me, one of the ironies in this democracy, or well, this hypocrisy of a democracy, I would say, is private prisons. Like, how do we have private prisons? I mean, because it's a capitalist society, so it's money. But how is that something that to me, it looks like if you're going to have private prisons, what you've done is incentivize now police departments and prisons to get more criminals. And like, it's like because that's the way you get paid, is housing people. So if prisons have quotas that they have to meet, and the police departments have to meet the quotas by providing them prisoners, I don't know if there's I feel like there's a hidden incentive for them to be able to provide bodies for that for those institutions. And as Jacqueline from a couple of weeks ago, yes, from the project Harriet Tubman project, mentioned that it costs like close to 200, depending on what facility, 100,000 to 200,000 a year to house this person. But yet, you know, like college education, like can go from anywhere from 30,000 to 70,000 a year, but you get more dividend or more payout on that particular investment than you do by, you know, paying for someone to be housed in that in those facilities for years. And again, sometimes they do get attainable skills, but those skills, like even when they do get out, the certification or whatever program they have might not be able to work in the field when they do get out. And that's something that's very unfortunate, and I think that should change. But again, the idea that what do you feel about private prisons?
I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I mean, I think quite candidly, I am what people would identify as an abolitionist, right? And so I don't think we should be putting people in cages, right? I think, you know, the 13th Amendment tells us that slavery was abolished with the exception of those who've been convicted of a crime.
Yes.
Right? So it baffles me today that in the 21st century, today, 2025, our U.S. Constitution,
yes,
that we hold so dear,
yes,
it still says,
yes,
to date,
yes,
slavery,
yes,
was abolished,
yes,
with the exception of those who've been convicted of a crime.
Yeah.
To me, that's fundamentally, that's a relic of slavery,
yes,
right? That's so how much more clear can we be, right? So then when you privatize prisons, it's a prison industrial complex. Under-resourced, intergenerational trauma, right? And so under-resourced systems of oppression, right? And you got to start with the truth, right? And so, you know, we do a lot of reimagining democracy reflection circles behind the wall, as we have a whole project that we're working, first of all, to restore the rights for people serving felony convictions in the state of Massachusetts that was stripped from them in 2000. You should know that Massachusetts was one of the states that from its inception, actually, people had the right to vote. It was stripped from them, regardless of them serving felony conviction. It's something called universal voting rights or universal suffrage, which means that everyone in this notion of democracy, all men are given these unalienable rights. If they're unalienable, right, that means that you can't, they're irrevocable for the pursuit, right, of happiness and so forth. So you should be able to participate in your own democracy. This notion of democracy is really, as you said, it's much of an illusion, right? We have this illusion of a peaceful transfer of power, but the fact that You are a citizen. And again, right now we have a president, I think 34 times convicted.
Yes.
Right? But yet you can't vote
Yeah.
for a person who is you can't vote as a convicted felon in the state of Massachusetts while you're serving time. So that's fundamentally flawed. Right. And so I think that, the prison industrial complex is a caste system that's created to do just what it does.
Yes.
Perpetuate free labor. Right. And to perpetuate people who literally, they can tell you from third grade if you're going to be able to fill these prisons.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Welcome.
Boston Prison Network.
We got a caller on the line. Okay. Hello. Welcome.
Hold on.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Welcome. Hello.
Hey,
you're on the air.
Good morning. This is Jamal calling back.
Hey, Jamal. Is this a good subject for you?
Yeah. Now that we not on that, I want to see if y'all saw this in the newspaper. So first of all, and it should have been on the front page of all papers, but you know how they do it. It was buried like in section B. But 150 inmates just won a class action lawsuit for what happened up there at Sousa Baranowski correctional facility. So there was some inmates got into it with some guards, okay, and jacked the guards up. But that was a couple of inmates. Then for the next several weeks, the inmates retaliated. The guards retaliated against all the inmates. Okay.
Wow.
So they made life really, ridiculous, what was happening there. So ultimately through, Prisoners Legal Services and some other groups, they just got a, man, my brain is so messed up. I think it's $6 million if I'm correct. It might be more. But they just got a huge multi-million-dollar settlement from the DOC based on that abhorrent treatment as retaliatory. Okay, so now, then in the paper today, guess who has a big problem with that? The Correction Officers Union.
Of course.
So they're like, what the heck? Why are you giving these people money? They're animals. That type of thing.
Yep.
And then also interesting.
No, go ahead.
Well, let me just say this too. Interestingly enough as well, they in the same article, they just talked about how the state of Massachusetts just passed a thing where they have now lowered the age to be a correction officer to the age of 19.
I saw that.
Wow.
Now, I don't like that.
No. Because you're
going to put a 19-year-old in an environment with some folks who've been doing more than 19 years. Them little young kids about to get chewed up and spit out.
Yes, they are. And then that's
now,
Go ahead.
And they're going to keep them in some sort of, sheltered type of thing. Like they said that they would not be able to do any of the jobs where you have to carry a firearm until they're 21. But as we know, even 21 is young.
Yes.
So it just looks like a lot more people do not want to do that job. So it's putting a crisis on that industry. And then the pool for who does want it gets thinner and thinner. And now they got to go younger and dumber.
No, and then the quality of the people you're getting are going to get worse and worse.
There you go. Because the ones you get generally, I'll go in there and I'll show these people something.
Yeah. And
you get the gung-ho wannabe police officers and wannabe exerting authority type folks.
Yes. That is unfortunate. I did not realize that, and that is very scary. Because, like you said, a 19-year-old, like they're not mature enough at the point to be able to. Like you said, people have been institutionalized for 20 years. They're gonna chew them and spit them out by the time. Like I don't even think the kids will probably last a week or 2 weeks if they're actually introduced. Go ahead.
And not for nothing too, as a security risk.
Yes.
I think they will also be more easily manipulated to maybe bring drugs into prison or, they bring me a Playboy magazine or whatever it is, get them caught up and jammed up.
Yeah.
Love triangles. If you remember, there was a time here in multiple things in the DOC where a couple of guards turned up pregnant by the inmates and a couple of inmates, obviously in the women's prison, had turned up pregnant by the guards.
Wow. Yes. Again, that is very scary. I'm just going to refer back to that documentary, The 13th, on Netflix. It talks about the 13th Amendment. As you said, like, you're free unless you're in prison. And historically, like, that's why they had those laws made in the South where loitering and soliciting. Because, again, loitering is just, if you're just hanging around, you can go to jail for just being, and for asking a question. Hi, excuse me, that's soliciting. That's to me, that baffles the mind that those were actual punishable crimes that you can go to jail for. And some states, depending on where you're at, still have very forced, hard labor. Yes.
You know, I know when I was in Georgia, I was locked up in what they call a diversion center, which is basically a glorified boot camp. And they had us digging ditches and moving rocks and, taking out tree stumps the old-fashioned way. You understand what I'm saying?
Wow.
So, and if you go to other places, working on forest fires in California, they got lumberjack crews, and they got highway. The highway is all over the place, but some places where you literally are breaking rocks and all this type, like the chain gang. All these type of things still exist.
Yes, because it's free labor, and they can basically use you to. And that's the thing. To prisoners, it's a privilege for them to get out to go and work, because they hold it up in the sense of like, oh, you get to work. Like if you have to earn the ability to work in the prison. It's not like
and if you're the guy in there who's lucky enough to get one of the coveted jobs or something, like, let's say you're in there making furniture for Walmart or whatever.
Yep.
Those are the good jobs. You're not out in the field breaking rocks or digging ditches. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
If you're in there working making textiles, or like when we grew up, it was always like, oh, the prisoners go to prison and they make license plates. A lot of those industries are dead, and I forget the name of the actual thing. It's like something Service Co. But if you look them up, they are a huge company of prison labor that makes a bunch of stuff. Like for major suppliers like Walmart, they're doing furniture, they're doing textiles, they're making jackets and sweaters and jeans, and you would be surprised. But for an economy, they have incorporated prison labor as a staple.
Okay. That is good to know. That is definitely something that we should definitely be. That's a threat right there to the democracy. It's like if there's an incentive for them to be putting people in prison so they can get free labor out of them, and the economy is based on working on it as is, that's definitely something it's alarming to me. The idea that you have a private prison. I thought prisons were there to serve justice, not to serve capital or capitalists. Oh.
And that's what gets more insidious. Okay, so did you see what happened to the mayor of Newark, good brother, Ras Baraka, son of one of my mentors, the great Amiri Baraka?
Did he get arrested when he went to the ICE detention center or something?
Exactly, in his own city.
Yeah.
Now, here's the trip. So he went on the Breakfast Club a couple days later. Normally I don't, care for that type of thing.
Yes.
But, he did an in-depth interview, and broke the whole thing down. So one, where he went, it's not even a federal facility. Okay?
Okay.
It's basically it's a private prison.
Yep.
That's working under the capacity of ICE.
Okay.
So they rented out some sort of facility, whatever, leasing it in the city of Newark, which is one of the reasons why he was there, because they have not submitted to any of the city's compliance in terms of what's the capacity, what do you do, what's going on in here? City inspections, all this. They've just, they've thumbed their nose at it. So that's why he and other members of state representatives from that area were there. Okay, long story short, so after he got arrested there at this thing, and that's what's funny, he didn't get arrested by federal people. He got arrested by a private, whoever these people are, almost like a Blackwater group or whatever. Gets arrested by them. They bring him to another facility that's in what looks like a warehouse. He's like, I'm the mayor of Newark, and I didn't even know this place existed.
Wow.
They brought him to a blackout location He's like, yo, this warehouse, they took me in the basement. It's lined up with cells. And you all should check that interview. It was very revealing. The whole building, he said, is filled with cells like a prison. He said, I'm the mayor of Newark. I didn't even know that this place existed. And these are not the federal government people. These are people who
private
are
contractors.
Contracted by the federal government.
Wow. So they've been deputized and authorized to do this, but again, they're not going to be. Again, like if you try to sue the federal government, then they have a way out, like a kind of like a get out of free jail card. We do have another caller on the line. Could you want to hold on, Jamal?
Yeah. Come on.
All right. Good morning and welcome to the roundtable. Who do we have?
Good morning, Rose. This is Priscilla. Good morning, Jamal.
Good
How y'all
morning.
doing?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. So I was listening to you guys, and once they stop prioritizing prisoners, they've been planning on doing that for a long time. Prison. So if they're going to privatize them, they're going to need clients, right? So this is what they do. It's insane the stuff that's going on. And you just said, Jamal, that the mayor didn't even know the prison was there. I mean, this stuff that's going on. We need to wake up. We need to open up our eyes.
I agree because again, like if the mayor, like again, you're quote unquote the chief person of this particular municipality, city, and they have things going on that you don't even know about. So, and what's that thing Kennedy said? In a democracy, there is no room for secrecy or secret societies. It's like it's a democracy. Everything should be out in the open. And
that simply is not the case.
No, that is definitely not the case.
That's a very altruistic statement.
And that begs the question: is there one here?
Yes.
Because any corporation, any corporation, when they operate under these auspices, they could, ABC Incorporated.
Yes.
Right. American Business Criteria Incorporated. Whatever. Then they come into your city. They get some warehouse or something, in some nondescript, broke down location. They did all the paperwork, so it's leased and all that, or they bought it or whatever. But then you don't know what they're doing when all these U-Haul trucks are coming in and how they're going to do the build out. It's not a restaurant or something where you got to come by and check it. Yeah. It's just a building. Yeah. So, we may have something like that in Boston or the surrounding areas. And some of these agencies, like, people have talked before about like BRIC, Boston Regional Intelligence Center. We have no idea of the level of, the government is only going to tell you what's public. That's why, they got top secret classifications and, we can't talk about this. This is under investigation. They're not going to tell you about all the covert surveillance and stuff that they're doing or in this case, facilities or warehouses that they may have. So it's a question of them. Once again, next time I talk to somebody in the Wu administration, I'm going to share the story about what happened to the mayor of Newark and ask, do they think that there's a possibility that a facility like that could exist in Boston?
Well,
I'm sure.
I am very sure as well.
It could.
And if not Boston, maybe like right outside. Maybe it's in Chelsea. Maybe it's in Everett.
Yes. Because again, like you've noticed that again, like these people, all they do is they carry the patch that says ice,
right?
Yeah,
and they're covered, they camouflage the face everything, and then plain clothes, and they just appear out of nowhere, and just are taking people who knows where with no process.
Yes,
and not for nothing, you could buy that patch.
Right,
down at the Army Navy store.
Yes.
Right. And if you're too lazy for that, for $3, you could just buy it on Amazon. It'll be at your door next day.
Right. So how do you know, right?
Yes.
I mean, and then when people try to intervene, there was one situation most recently where people were like, "Well, no, wait a minute," and then there's pushback for that.
Yes.
Right. So
they're like interfering with federal workers and stuff like that.
Who says you're federal? How do you disappear? It's like produce any kind of something that makes you have to identify who you are.
Yes.
Right. And even you can manufacture that. So without the process, it's just a scary time. I don't know. What do we do?
Yeah.
Like, really, I'm so curious to. Practically, what do you do when this is coming from the federal administration and there happen any place and anywhere?
Yeah.
This notion of ICE and immigration, right?
So,
and
and
can snatch anybody up and take you any place.
It's funny how I think like they were like before even Trump got back into office, like how their network was already set up, and they're like, you know, like they have information to people that they're going after, like the day of, like, because again, like some of the people, like one of the people I noticed that they were literally just going to work,
Okay.
and all of a sudden they were surrounded, and the people like they were like, get out, like, and people were just like the two workers weren't doing anything, and they weren't leaving the car, but they broke the glass window, and then people started like, "Hey, what's going on? Show us the warrant." They're like, "We don't have to."
Right.
We don't, like that. Excuse me. I thought this was like America. We had due process, and we had like, you know, how can you just say no? It is, you know, because basically we're turning into fascist, you know, a fascist state. Because again, you know, you can't question the state anymore. You can't.
So my question again, I want to acknowledge Sister Michelle, who's tuning in on our main webpage. She's saying good morning. So I want to know, you know, Brother Jamal or you or anybody, like really practically, what do we do?
I don't know. I guess like what, like make sure that we always have our cell phones and cameras rolling or something so that we have proof. Go ahead.
My kind of revolutionary perspective and kind of a spiritual one is what's that old saying? They say, "This too shall pass."
Mm-hmm.
So I think at the end of the day, when I look back, when I ran for office, it was 2013.
Mm-hmm.
That's already 12 years ago.
Okay.
I can't believe it. Seems like it was just yesterday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that for right now, there's not much we can do. We're going to have to, you know, stick to our guns, you know, tighten up our belts, you know, batten down the hatches and all that type of thing. And, you know, if it gets real stupid, we might be eating tuna fish and dry beans and rice and stuff like that. Who knows? But, you know, he only gets 4 years. And if he thinks that he's going to do the tricky thing and, you know, make it so that he can stay more, that's when it'll be a straight-out revolution.
Yes.
Because, yeah, even the other white people are not going for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, the Supreme Court has made a mistake in giving it like an immunity, and I think that's what he's going to try to use to try to stay in power and say, well, I'm the president and I can't get prosecuted, so I'm going to stay president, and that way I can't get prosecuted forever.
Yep. And also, too, you know what I also believe in, too, is the power of cheeseburgers. meaning that literally this man might not be long for the world. You know, you can't even insinuate like an assassination attempt or what have you, but you know,
actually,
as the other saying goes, none of us are promised tomorrow.
Yes.
So looking at his health, looking at how worked up he always gets and whatnot, he looks like a cardiac candidate for me.
But do you know? Do you want to hear something funny? Like, I guess that he's going after not Merrick Marlin, but another Garrett Marlin. What was he? What was his title again? Of Attorney General. All right. So
Garrick Moreland.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Do you know? Like, I guess like the like 8647. If you say that, or you,
no, that's the former. No, you're talking about former FBI dude Jim Comey.
Yes. Like he's gonna try to get him arrested because he took pictures of shells. Just happened to be, the guy never worked in a restaurant business, so how would he know that 86 meant? And 86 means we're out of it. It doesn't mean kill it. It means we're out of it. Because I've worked in the industry. When they say 86, that means there's no more item. The menu just say it's no longer available.
Right.
So when people ask for it, say it doesn't mean kill it. It means it's no longer available.
Okay.
And he's
in the
turning
streets,
around.
it definitely means kill.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
All right, I didn't know
that's old mafia terms. Yeah. We're gonna deep 86 him.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Depends on what culture you're talking.
Yeah, exactly. I grew because in the restaurant industry, 86 just meant that we're out of it, and just tell the people that no more, it's not available right now. So, but he's actually going after like you said, Comey, because he took pictures of the seashells, and someone had, I guess, in his neighborhood put 86.7. He's like, oh, look at this arrangement, and he says, oh, he knows what he was doing there. And I'm like, how can you tell what was in someone's mind? And the fact that the random those four numbers, like you can equate to like, oh no, he's saying assassinate him, and it's like So to me,
I don't want to promote it on the church station, but I was thinking I should play those numbers.
Oh well, you know what? You're not gonna be the only one then, you know. Because if they hit, I want to get him to shoot. Oh my goodness! But wow, no. But again, like you're talking about someone. I guess like he's kind of paranoid, and the fact that it's like okay, the assassination attempts on him, and like I'm not saying that they weren't real or anything, but you know what I mean, to me, I think it was more like political theater.
The ones on Trump.
Trump, yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm like,
well, every president, as you know, gets both assassination attempts and more so threats.
Yes.
The previous record holder, I think, was Nixon, who got something like, I think it was like 40 a week. I can't remember the exact numbers. But, of course, Obama smashed that record because Obama was getting up to like 300 of them.
I'm sure.
Wow.
And if you remember, some of the famous ones, because, you know, this is when I was with the New Black Panther Party, and we were kind of involved on this, you know, in terms of we had already had intel and we had planned to thwart these people. But it was some town that he was going to speak in or do a rally in or what have you. Was it Florida, Tennessee? I can't remember. But in any event, the neo-Nazis had it all worked out. Neo-Nazi skinheads and all this.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they're not playing. These are not the ones that come to Boston. No. These are the serious ones.
Yeah.
Okay? You know, they'll shoot a gopher from, you know, 150 yards away. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay.
So they had planned to do this elaborate thing. You know, a lot of them deal with numbers, too. So they have, like, I forget what their numbers is. 88 is one of them because it stands for, like, Hail Hitler.
Yes,
because
yes.
the H and the H is, like, the thing. But they have all these significant numbers and years and all this type of thing. But so in this particular area where Obama was, there were 2 black schools. And so they planned to start it off with killing 88 kids in this one black school.
Oh.
Then they were going to, like, firebomb something else. And then it was going to culminate in an assassination attempt on Obama. Okay. That was one of the biggest ones that ever, and it, you know, was actual. They caught them, like, in the act of about to be executed. You know, this was not some kids in the basement, you know. They were about to do it. So I just say that to say that with what has happened with Donald Trump, you know, of course, we all grew up. We saw Reagan got shot.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we remember when Buckwheat got shot. You know what I mean? So, you know, this has been going on, so it's nothing different. The difference, I think, is that he is true to his character. What's that other saying? Don't you let any good tragedy go to waste.
Yeah, so he's milking it so that way he can get the sympathy of the people, gathered votes, gathered more support. It was just, to me that's what it was. It was a totally staged. So because again, like if you killed him, you could have made him a martyr. But if he's not, if he's not killed, what he does, it's like you said.
Now he's Tupac.
Yeah, exactly. It's a PR.
You can't kill me. I'm tough.
Yeah,
I'm, you know.
Right. Michelle says that there was a story of a family, mom and 3 girls, who ICE, Homeland Security, etc., broke into her home and took everything from her, including $3,000 in, is it 3,000? Yeah, $3,000 in cash. None of these agencies took responsibility for it. She says none of the agencies took responsibility for that. So to me, that could have been the government or anyone off the street.
Yeah.
Because they gave her no warrant, no IDs, nothing. Shameful and scary.
I agree. That is unbelievable. And that's the thing.
And
like go ahead.
You know, when you're a private consultant, right, now we've been talking about police accountability and all this type of thing. When it's a private consultant, and this is why that group in wars, Blackwater, was able to basically get away with war crimes because there is no one to quote-unquote pin it to because you can't pull them before the world court because they are not a nation.
Yes.
You know, so these private consultants really walk that in that shadow area, and they're able to do other things. And if y'all remember when we were kids, I hope it's better now. I know a lot of firefighters. But back in the day, firefighters had a horrible reputation as thieves. And this is at the time in the 70s and the early 80s when so much arson was happening in Boston and whatnot. But look, if there was a fire at your grandma's house or your auntie's house, fire might be in the kitchen or something, right? But then, you know, they come, they do the whole, all of a sudden, grandma's jewelry is missing. The mink coat was there, and you know, the rumor was that, you know, some wife in South Boston got a new mink that night, and it might have smelled a little smoky. So these are the types of things where when people have access to your home, but in case of a fire, an emergency, look at all the looting that took place after, like, Katrina.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People, if there was a dry house, they was trying to see if the TV still worked. And if it wasn't dry, they was trying to see what they could dry out that would still work. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People are vicious, man. People are vicious. And people, particularly people, if they are given any type of vision of an inkling of power or authority, or that you were plugged up with some. We saw, look, Hitler was not Hitler alone.
Yeah.
There, you know, in order for Hitler to be Hitler, you had to have the mindless masses that became the Nazi, the SS, the Gestapo, the Hitler Youth, and all that. If you did not have that wave of, you know, he was a rock star. That's how that got done.
No, and that you mentioned, it's besides the power, it's the immunity from prosecution, knowing that they're not going to be held responsible, or liable for all their actions.
All the January 6 people who got out.
Yeah, they got their pardon they got the presidential pardon. And I'm like,
we just got our first round of the poor South African immigrant farmers.
Yeah, 50 of them, I believe. So, like, and then the South African president did stand up and tell him, like, it's a false narrative, and he brought
it's propaganda. But
yeah.
Trump loves propaganda.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's like ice cream to him. But now check it out. So when these white South African farmers just got here, and now that they're immigrants and they're in thing, in a minute, you know, that's going to mean that they're going to be African Americans.
That is funny. Yeah, I did not even think of that. Well,
that's why I'm not one.
Yeah. Wow.
It's exactly why I'm black.
But again, as African Americans in this country, they're going to have a privilege of being able to use, quote unquote, the civil rights. You know, they say
they're gonna graduate from Howard University.
Yeah, you know how they say the biggest benefactors of the civil rights movement is actually white women.
White women, right?
Yeah, it's not black.
Affirmative action.
Yeah, white women benefit from affirmative action more than we do, and it's designed to help us. But they're the ones that have taken full advantage of it.
Hey, Priscilla, you still on the line?
She's not.
No,
she's not.
She's not.
Oh. Because she could have been able to testify to this. That affirmative action, which, still carries over to now. So watch this. You know, Priscilla has done work for years on the whole workforce, you know what I mean, having the right number of people into the workforce and on these construction sites and
yes.
and who the contracts go to and the bids and the proposals and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes.
So one of these things that a lot of the white men did, and this has been going on since the 80s or the early 90s, is they put the business in the wife's name.
Yes.
So now it's automatically at least a woman business.
Yes.
Then some of them later even started marrying women outside their race.
Yeah.
Brazilian woman, a Latino woman, or what have you.
Yeah. And
now we got you know what I mean?
Yes, I do remember that.
So I mean,
the business still exists. Oh, yeah.
Some of the largest people who do whatever, I don't know, concrete or pavement or this or that, some of those companies are quote unquote now considered as minority women, you know, business type of entities because the white men who own them, you know, did some what I'm going to call strategic partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To make their business more eligible for all of that type of the grants and everything.
Yeah, no, I definitely have heard that, and I don't put it past anyone, especially, you know, a business owner, to be able to do or take advantage of the situation.
Michelle says, "Laugh out loud" on the African American. You know, and it's so interesting because consistently, it's about manipulation, right? And you talk about It's not about justice or righteousness. I mean, rich people have the ability to be able to have lawyers that can find all kind of loopholes.
Yes.
To be able to, be legal but not righteous.
Yes.
So it's just, as you say, I appreciate when for me the question always is, what do we do? And as a believer, I really appreciate what you said about, you said this too will pass, right? So this is, human depravity is something that has happened since the beginning of creation, unfortunately. But again, what rings in my mind is righteousness exalts a nation or a people group, but sin is a reproach to any people. So that's the thing for me that gives me hope, really, is trusting in God, the righteous judge, who is not a respecter of people, and he says the powers that be are ordained of God, so we're to pray for those who are in quote unquote authority. We know it's so many times throughout the Bible, whether it was Pharaoh and the Israelites, right? Or I mean, you can go so many dispensations in time. This has happened, right? That there's been people who've used their power to oppress and exploit and inhumanely treat people. But again, trusting in doing the righteous thing, and trusting a righteous God, that ultimately it will go well for us. And vengeance is his. So
I trust in God, but at the same time, I do believe in kind of the hands-off philosophy of God, which is kind of a step above. He gave man free will. I think God has already set the parameters quite clearly, and has just been like, all right, let's see what these little sea monkeys do. And, and if they get too crazy, I'm going to send a meteorite on them. You know what I mean? Start over. So, I don't believe that God really interferes too much in the messings of mankind. And my only evidence for that is, we can, spin the globe and stick a pin anywhere in the world. We could find suffering, millions of innocent children who ain't going to bed with nothing to eat tonight. We got people, as you know, in Haiti eating dirt. You got,
Palestinians.
I mean, it's just, it's too much. Yeah. It's just too much suffering on this planet for me to believe that God intercedes, except on an individual or personal way. Like, there's definitely been times where, you'd be like, oh, wow, God really just looked out right there. Yeah. But like on the large scale, once again, we talked about Hitler a couple times, you know what I mean? That happens under that watch. And if you those people would say that they are the chosen people, then some of these things are like, was this already predestined and supposed to be as part of the thing? Is this black suffering part of the thing? You know what I mean? These are all deep theological and philosophical type questions that clearly I don't have the answers for, but I definitely believe God has taken a hands-off approach, probably just because we nasty.
Well, I hear you, I feel you. For me, the original Serenity Prayer that most people have not heard, because we only know the abbreviated version that really is to be politically correct. It says, God grant me the serenity or the peace to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. So for me, again, life is. God's ways are our ways, His thoughts are our thoughts, and I can't understand, the suffering and all that He does. But it's personal, as you said, right? And I can my own life's journey, and again, so what we can only do. There's some things we have no power over, we have no control over, so we have to surrender those things to a God that has an understanding and a power that supersedes our infinite, our finite mind as an infinite God, right? So. But we do have the ability to be able, as with free will, to surrender and to trust. And for me, that's been just giving me peace and giving me blessings and so much in this life, and helps me to be able not to lose my mind, right? Because we just can't, right? So to surrender it and to trust Him and know that I'm going to live forever, that no one's going to live forever in these temporal bodies, right? We're all going to pass away. So I'm living to live again. This world's not my home. So as a citizen of the kingdom of God, but in the earth realm for a period of time, I'm going to do my best to tap into and surrender to a righteous God and be as righteous as I can and fulfill my purpose, whatever that is. So whether I live or whether I die, right, I'm going to fulfill my purpose. And when I stand before Him, that we all have to do one day, right, and that I'm going to hear Him say, enter into your eternal rest, my good and my faithful servant.
I am praying again that the things do work out. But again, as Jamal says, like it is up to God and everything. So, but to me, the idea that there is that the depravity of man to be able to and allow other people to just be able to, to me, sometimes it's hard enough to witness other people suffering, but to know that's happening. And again, the callousness, the I don't care attitude
of people. I mean, man's hearts are deceitfully wicked, right? As humans, right? So Michelle says, and that is the question, Pastor Hobbs. He says, what can we do? Are these things just going to just continue? And then what? What are we going to do to bring a little fairness back? What can we do? And she said, amen to that, Pastor Hobbs. So, yeah, for me, what can we do is the whole 2 Chronicles 7:14, right? Is, consistently, if we God's people, right, who are called by His name, would humble ourselves. That's a posture of humility, seek His face. Because when we have that posture of humility and we seek His face, He's going to show us more of our own carnal nature that needs to actually be transformed into His righteousness. And He'll give us a plan and a strategy to do what we can for a people group. That's right. Not the whole world, maybe, but our influence. We each are here for a purpose that's bigger than than our own selfish interest. And surrendering to God will fulfill that purpose. He'll give us peace. He'll give us the ability to be able to navigate chaos, right? And fulfill His purpose. If that's a few people, if that's a nation, if that's a world, if that's, only He knows our impact. But ultimately to trust, right, that there's a righteous God, surrender to Him, and whether we live or whether we die, we know that vengeance is ultimately His, and we trust Him, and He will give us the strategy. He's done it consistently, right? Think about the Underground Railroad, right? The Harriet Tubmans. I mean, when I think about people, literally, when it was okay to treat people like a piece of property, and the ways that the injustices, right, that people had to endure, right? But literally, God gave strategy, right? How we didn't, it wasn't a grant. It wasn't, it wasn't politicized. We didn't vote to free ourselves, right? He gave us strategy to be able to do that. And we did it by the grace of God. Yeah. And as it was said, we could have freed more people had they only realized that they were slaves.
Yeah,
right?
That's what she said.
So consistently, we've had these dispensations that God has given strategy and put people in positions of power and brought them down.
Yeah. So, but then that brings to the question is that then, as far as like taking or getting power, it has to be something that you actively, because they're not going to concede or give it to you.
Correct. God will give you the strategy with how to do that. Think about it in the times of Pharaoh, right? Consistently, he said, Moses was the deliverer of the people, and he kept saying, let my people go, because God had given him strategy. God kept doing things ultimately to Pharaoh to ultimately harden his heart. But eventually, he let them go, right?
Yeah.
Then he changed his mind. He pursued them up into the Red Sea,
Yeah.
right? But God, so we have so many stories, and these are not just fairy tales. These are actual stories, right, that are in the Bible. Not just in the Bible, but we have stories that we know of people of history, like Harriet Tubman,
Yes.
like the and on and on and on. We have another caller who joined us. I'm not sure who that is.
Hello?
Hello. Yes. Welcome to
So,
Roundtable.
Me, I called back because Michelle, when she said, "What can we do?" What we can do as a people is to come together, stop backbiting, stop fighting. We got to learn different ways of doing different things. We may have to go back to bartering. We have to come together. That's the only answer. And I know everybody's not going to come, but those who never will, let them come, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take us coming together. I'm talking about the Haitians, the Trinidadians, the Jamaicans, we have to come together because we're up against this big government.
But in history, every time we've come together, they've come and destroyed whatever we've had. From Rosewood to Wilmington to Tulsa, Oklahoma, like they.
And don't you think it's time for that to stop?
It should, but again, like I believe, like once we do come together, they can come in like with eminent domain, economics, weapons, guns.
That's why we need to change our elected officials, for one thing.
We got 4 minutes.
And that's why we need to get rid of some of our elected officials.
We got 4 minutes.
And we need to come together as community. There's a lot of neighborhood associations in the city of Boston.
Agreed.
All right, there's a neighborhood association, maybe one or two, in every Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, Hyde Park, East Boston, South End. They're neighborhood associations. Those neighborhood associations are run by the people in the community that live there. So why can't because that's what's supposed to happen. The neighborhood associations are supposed to work with the wards. We know we got 22 wards, I believe. So we need to really change our strategy on how we're doing stuff. And we got to come together. We got to stop all this fighting, this backbiting, and those folks that are going against us and cheating and lying on us and selling us out. We need to get rid of them. That's just the bottom line. It's 2025. Come on, people.
We have to get together.
It does not make any sense that this stuff is still going on. We have to come together. That's the only answer. It's us against them. It's us against them. And we can't, we know we, huh?
I just want to ask you a question. So I agree we need to get rid of all, the sellouts, the people like, that we feel like don't have value, for us as a people, a community. My only question is, who draws up that list and how? Because like I have a list of people that I think are totally useless and, not good people. But then you might be like, oh man, not Tony. I like Tony. You see what I'm saying? So how do we weigh that out?
So just like we got this PAC, right? The United Communities PAC, right? We have to build on that, and we have to. People know people. We pretty much got an idea who the sellouts and stuff are, right? And those are the ones that you're not invited. You're not invited. That's how we have been torn down all the time because of one of us. But we got to do something, Jamal. We have to do something. We have to disrupt some stuff in Boston. I keep saying that. We have to disrupt some stuff. And I have some ideas. I'm not putting them out here on the radio, but I got some ideas. And I got some folks behind me. And I'm telling you, get ready. We're coming.
Well, that being
I
said,
didn't start that institute for nothing, just to be doing something.
No,
I got soldiers out there, and we're coming.
We need to definitely get organized. We definitely need to get together and stay vigilant, because it's systematic. It's something that they've as far as like the animosity or the destruction or the attack on our community. It's definitely something that has been documented. It's been going on, so we definitely need to
They
organize and get
keep
together.
using that same old Willie Lynch syndrome. They keep doing the divide and conquer.
Yes, yes. But
And it.
but I guess like
Am I done?
no. We're out of time basically. So we're as soon as it gets interesting, the hour again, 2 hours just flew by again. And I thought I didn't realize. I'm like, how am I gonna fill just me and you? But again, there it is. We've filled out 2 hours. This you've been listening to the Roundtable with MAMLEO, and again this is one of the best places to have these kind of discussions and to exchange ideas.
Well, I'm gonna go. Jamal, you and I need to talk. I'm gonna call you.
And yes, and we will continue this conversation
All right, y'all have a good
offline. And again, tune in next week, and hopefully the rest of the crew is here with Dr. Bradley and Larry. And again, thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to support us.
In the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst, and the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer, 'cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle so if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya, no, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for